From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brooke Jensen with your 3 p.m. news headlines. For our top story today, Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning across BC, pinpointing a fire hose-like band directly from the subtropic moisture directly at the coast. More than 200 millimeters of rain could hit western Vancouver Island, up to 110 millimeters in the sea to sky region, and 80 millimeters in Metro Vancouver. Erosion from the wildfires can lead to a risk of flooding and landslides due to the sudden heavy rain. Water pools are forming on already wet and slippery roads, so be extra cautious while driving. Several ferries, including Tawasin and Swartz Bay, were canceled this morning, and trips for the rest of the day are at risk for cancellation. All people, especially those living in floodplains such as Merritt, Princeton, and Sumas Prairie, are being told to prepare for the seasonal storms. BCIT is hosting an event for students who ride bikes to school. Our reporter Ugule Suvnova found out the details of the event and how BCIT is encouraging students to ride bikes to school.
BCIT is encouraging students to ride bikes to school by setting up the bike information station on Burnaby Campus. Fall Go Bike Week is happening from October 16th to October 29th. The main purpose of this event is to bring cyclists together as a community to connect and share information, break down barriers to people, and discuss associated with saving money, avoiding traffic, and helping the planet. There will be free coffee and treats, but students should bring their own cup to reduce single plastic use. The Go Bike Week station is happening from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Breezeway between SW1 and SW3. I'm Ugila Swanova for 1680 The Crow.
And we have Oogie live now to talk more about Go Bike Week. So Oogie, tell us about the bike station and how bike mechanics are helping people in this type of weather.
Yeah, Brooke, there are so many cyclists today, surprisingly, and plus not only students but also workers at BCIT. They're all cycling riding bikes today, and this station is perfect for students because they can get free coffee, treats, and lots of information how to bike to school. And the atmosphere is very great. There are many people who are explaining how to save the planet by riding bikes,
Yeah, and do you see any cyclists right now who are getting help from these mechanics?
Yes, actually, there are many students who are riding, even though it's raining, and it's an amazing opportunity for bikers to get help and fix their bikes. Especially in this weather, people have problems with the tires and the bike itself.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Oogie.
Yeah, thank you.
It is widely known to people that alcohol consumption can lessen or even heighten a person's anxiety levels. A new study by the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction counteracts this claim. Our reporter Chris Koo has the details.
Since the pandemic, people have been drinking more, with some even facing drinking problems according to the experts. However, even though anxiety could be the factor that leads to excessive drinking, it's not quite the other way around. According to the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction, one large study they conducted that included approximately 17,000 participants from Canada showed little to no association of binge drinking with the development of depression or anxiety in the future. Michael Walsh, who's a substance use and addiction specialist but also a recovery coach, says counseling might be a better treatment than naltrexone, which is a medication used to treat alcohol use disorder for people with low to moderate consumers of alcohol.
I would say yes, recovery coaching on its own could help sort of like minimize or mitigate the anxiety and depression, but for a low to sort of moderate consumer of alcohol.
I'm Chris Koo from 1680 The Crow.
With more people looking to go electric, there are questions about how older buildings without a charging station are dealing with the demand. The Crow's Nicholas Poitras has details on how BC landlords will deal with the pressure.
The demand of EV charging stations has slowly been brewing in the Lower Mainland as more and more people turn to electric cars. Despite stats from BC Hydro saying that 1 in 6 people already own electric cars, many landlords in BC aren't too worried about the rise in popularity. The demand of electric cars can switch quite quickly, including costs, as a new technology isn't always affordable, as well as concerns for infrastructure, since many buildings have yet to add charging stations. However, with some rebates already ending due to the ever-increasing growth of the electric car market, these landlords might not have a choice in the coming years. Nicholas Poitras, 1680 The Crow.
A fire broke out this morning in Burnaby, destroying 4 homes. The fire was reported at roughly 2 a.m. and required 11 trucks and 42 firefighters. The RCMP say fire investigators and the police are still on scene, but it is too dangerous to go into the building and investigate at the moment. Right now, they're waiting for an excavator to come and take the building apart, and they will be investigating from above as they do so. A Vancouver cabaret group is back this October with a Halloween tradition. Our reporter Madison Buckingham spoke with the organization's artistic director to find out what new features guests can look out for this year.
The Dusty Flower Pot Cabaret is returning with their well-loved Parade of the Lost Souls. This year, the group has chosen the theme Everything Everywhere All at Parade. Artistic director Kat Singledane says her team is exploring audience interaction like never before.
We want people to really use their imagination for whatever kind of amalgamation of worlds they want to create.
The parade will be choose-your-own adventure style, meaning several bands will begin at the Britannia Library before splitting up onto separate routes with different experiences for attendees to follow. Singledane also mentioned that the public is being welcomed to workshops for flash mobs that will be happening the same evening. Attendees are also invited to the after-party, where they will have the chance to interact with performers and celebrate the show. Madison Buckingham, 1680 The Crow.
And if that interests you more, you can tune into For the Record to hear the full 15-minute interview. Ontario's legislator is debating a motion that could see an NDP legislator prevented from speaking in the House of Commons unless she re-apologizes for her comments made about the Israel-Hamas conflict. Hamilton Centre MPP Sarah Jama put out a statement last week decrying the long occupation of Palestine, without once mentioning the Hamas militant attacks.
It is my contention that the member for Hamilton Centre, by way of things she has done and left intentionally undone, has placed this House and its members in such disrepute that as a Parliament, we have no choice but to act to defend the dignity of the institution on behalf of our constituents.
That was the government House Leader Paul Calandra saying she must apologize again in legislature and formally retract her statement. 8 airports in France have been evacuated due to security and bomb threats. The Palace of Versailles was also evacuated for the 3rd time in less than a week. Allegedly, 2 of which were security threats, and the other a suspicious item being brought in by Torgor. France has upped its security measures in the past week. The reason for this? A knife attack at a public school that killed a teacher and injured several students. The 20-year-old suspect has been put under investigation for terrorism and was previously under surveillance by the French authorities before the incident. Alec Baldwin could possibly be recharged with the shooting of a cinematographer that happened 2 years ago on this movie, Rust. According to prosecutors, there has been additional facts that rise to make this possible, and they will be presenting their case to the grand jury by the end of the year.
Prosecutors say after an extensive investigation, additional facts have come to light and that they believe Mr. Baldwin has criminal culpability. Among the new evidence, a report that revealed the revolver in the shooting was found to function properly and that the trigger had to be pulled for the weapon to fire. Lawyers for Baldwin responding saying it is unfortunate that a terrible tragedy has been turned into this misguided prosecution.
Getting into some sports headlines, the Canucks will be playing Tampa Bay tomorrow at 4 p.m., following their loss to the Flyers last night. This will also be the first game with their new defenseman Mark Friedman, who was called up from the AHL and traded from the Penguins. Friedman has scored 4 goals, 8 assists, and 12 points in 65 career NHL games. The teaser for Netflix's first live sporting event called the Netflix Cup has dropped. This event will feature 4 Formula One drivers, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, and Pierre Gasly, and 4 PGA Tour players, Ricky Fowler, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, and Justin Thomas. There will be 4 pairs of 1 F1 driver and 1 golfer competing in a golf tournament. The Netflix Cup is streaming from the Wynn Golf Club in Las Vegas on November 14th. On the subject of F1, McLaren has announced 18-year-old Bianca Bustamante has become the first female driver to join their driver development program. McLaren will be supporting her through the second all-female F1 Academy in 2024. Bustamante sits 7th out of 15 drivers this year, with 2 wins out of 18 races. Going back to our top story, the weather today is expected to be around 14 degrees as a high and a low of 12 degrees plus the wind. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell received his contract extension that will run until March 2027. The contract will also include clauses for extension or succession. Goodell says he is happy and honored to do this job.
Armando, you hit a point. If I was focusing on my legacy, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. I wouldn't have signed an extension. My job is to be commissioner of the National Football League and do the best I can. That's what I'm going to do. You guys can decide legacies later. That's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on what we got to accomplish as a league.
That was your news headlines for 3 o'clock. I'm Brooke Jensen, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
It's an emotional night, but a night that's been seeded in hundreds of years of tradition. Welcome to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Nicholas Poitras, and on today's featured podcast, we take you 1,400 kilometers north to Kitimat and Klemtu, British Columbia, to listen and learn about the traditional feast of the Haisla Nation. Joined alongside me is a member and newly dubbed hereditary chief, Kobe Smith. For starters, many congratulations on your new position. How you doing today, Kobe?
I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for asking.
That's great to hear. As I mentioned, you recently became a hereditary chief of the Haisla Nation. You mentioned to me that you took part in a feast, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Nick. I took part in a feast in front of more than 400 community members at the Haisla Nation.
But what are these traditional feasts? To discuss this topic, we talked to Roxanne Robinson, a hereditary chief of the Klemtu Nation, to educate us on what these feasts are.
A potlatch for us is, and a feast, many nations have their own ways of doing it, but for us, we host a feast or potlatch to commemorate special times in our life, whether it's a headstone feast or a tombstone feast where we're celebrating the life of a loved one that's passed on, introducing a baby to the community, or weddings. So we have a long history of hosting potlatches and feasts in our ceremonial big houses from way back in time, where we have different ceremonies for certain life events.
So, Kobe, you flew all the way up for this feast. How much preparation is put into it?
Well, on Friday before the feast, all the clan members from the Killer Whale Fish clan come and help out and cut up all the veggies and the meat for the soup. And after that's done, we start setting up the gym for the community members to come sit and enjoy a meal with us and witness the names being put on our people.
Sounds like something that's been done for many generations. But how long? Greg Smith of the Haisla Nation talks to us about the origins of the feast.
It was born from our hereditary system. As I mentioned, the hereditary system used to govern our entire community, our entire nation. And prior to contact, this was the only system in place. They oversaw all aspects of the community. They were basically the law.
Hundreds of years later, the values of the hereditary system are still with us in the community, including the hereditary names of our ancestors.
What is your hereditary chief name, Kobe, and why is it so important to you and your family?
My hereditary chief name is Haitma Jalas. It's very important to me and my family because I'm keeping the name alive.
Although you earlier mentioned that you don't know the meaning of the name, many names have been given based off of the animals in the area. Roxanne discusses the importance of those names and why they must be passed down.
A traditional name can be anything from a childhood name to, like, when I worked at our community school, I felt it was very important to uplift our children, and we placed different names on them, like Guyam is a humpback whale. So there's childhood names that are common names. They aren't of any rank. But then chieftainship names are something that you have to feast for, or potlatch for, feed the people, gift the people gifts for coming to witness the work that you're done. So there's different types of names. And so I feel that it's important to pass down traditional names is something that's been done for many, many years. Like, I received my father's chieftainship name that was passed on to him from his aunt. And so there's a long lineage of where this name came from. And it's important that, when you receive the chieftainship name, it's not just a name to say that you're a chief. There's a lot of work that comes along with it. You are the voice of the land. You are the voice of the water. You are the voice of the people. And so there's a lot of responsibility for that. You take care of your clan. You take care of the people. You see, people. Being a chief isn't like being a king. Being a chief is looking out for the needs of your people and giving as much as you can and taking care of as much as you can. So I feel that it's really important that these names continue on for our future generations so that we can all stay culturally connected and that we are asserting our rights and title in our own territories.
The importance of these events cannot be understated. Through many years of the Haisla language fading, the feasts and traditional names have grown more powerful in the community. Greg talks about his experience with the language, and Roberta Grant, an Haisla elder, discusses why she finds these feasts very important.
When I was, I can't remember, around in my 30s, that's about when I started going to, when I received my childhood name back then, and I started going to feasts. I was a witness of some names that were passed on, but one thing that was really evident in these feasts was the strength of the language and culture. Most of the speakers in past feasts spoke Haisla without interpretation. So, and as you can see this past Saturday, it was rare to hear somebody speak in Haisla. It was mostly all English.
I believe it's very, very important to keep it within our community and keep it within our family, keep us together. It's important, like our language. We keep it within our community and elsewhere.
For you, Kobe, what was the most memorable part of that night?
The most memorable part of that night is when two very special people in my life, my two aunties, Terry Smith and Audrey Grant, placed my traditional blanket on me, and when my Baba Tubby put the headdress on me after I received my hereditary chief name.
What is the traditional blanket?
The traditional blanket is what hereditary chiefs wear at ceremonies and have their crest on the back. For men, the background is black and the border is red. For the woman, the background is red and the border is black. Red and black is our traditional colors. My crest is a salmon. There are a total of 4 salmons on my blanket that represent my Baba Reg that held the name before my dad, Ron Smith. And the second one represents my dad. He held the name before me. The third one represents my mom, and the last one represents me.
I absolutely love that. To have your mother, father, and your grandfather forever remembered on the blanket must make you feel very proud. And again, many congratulations. For people outside of the Haisla Nation, and including non-Indigenous people, these gatherings could seem quite different from the normal way of life. However, Roxanne and Roberta share their thoughts on why the feast is valuable to anyone who wants to attend.
When I hear ceremonies myself, I feel like it feels a bit intimidating, but any way that you can be in doing life, if you're having a tough day, I feel like the water is a healer, and I go to the water and I say my prayers. That's a form of ceremony.
I honestly don't know that question, but I'm thankful every day that this is still going on, like our language, and we have to continue to keep it going. And anybody else that asks for information, because this is a big, big thing to have a traditional feast. It starts from collecting dry goods to finance to the food to setting up and everything like that. In some of the feasts are drying the tears, and that one is just towels. But if you're going to have a big, big feast like you did, Kobe, it's everything. And that's our appreciation to go towards the community that came forward when we lost our loved one.
And like what all our speakers said, this is a tradition that with time holds more and more value and importance to keep the culture alive.
Our traditional ways almost got stolen away from us. That's why for me, I'm so proud of all the nations that get to practice our traditional ways and be able to talk our language and sing our traditional songs.
And that is all for today's feature podcast. I'm Nicholas Poitras alongside Kobe Smith. Follow us on social media at BCIT News on Twitter, myself at NickP_, and Kobe at KobeSmith33. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
from the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Atanasov with 1680 The Crow. It's 12:30. Here's what's going on right now. Environment Canada issues warnings for Metro Vancouver, North Shore, Sea to Sky Highway, Sunshine Coast, Kitimat, and across Vancouver Island as the province prepares for an atmospheric river. The Lower Mainland is expected to see about 80 millimeters of rain. Whistler should have upwards of 110 millimeters of rain, while West Vancouver Island is looking between 180 and 200 millimeters of rain. Officials are warning people in affected areas to be ready in case of landslides and flooding. They speculate that the weather will prolong into the evening. With more people looking to go electric, there are questions about how older buildings without charging stations are dealing with the demand. The Crow's Nicholas Poitras has details on how BC landlords will deal with the pressure.
The demand of EV charging stations has slowly been brewing in the Lower Mainland as more and more people turn to electric cars. Despite stats from BC Hydro saying that 1 in 6 people already own electric cars, many landlords in BC aren't too worried about the rise in popularity. The demand of electric cars can switch quite quickly, including costs, as the new technology isn't always affordable, as well as concerns for infrastructure, since many buildings have yet to add charging stations. However, with some rebates already ending due to the ever-increasing growth of the electric car market, these landlords might not have a choice in the coming years. Nicholas Poitras, 1680, The Crow.
The Massey Tunnel replacement procurement moves towards the next steps. This will include a new toll-free 8-lane tunnel, which will improve travel for people along Highway 99 between Richmond and Delta. Rob Fleming, Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, says they're moving ahead on delivering improvements for the thousands of people who rely on this crossing each day. The new tunnel will also feature a separate multi-use path to support pedestrians, cyclists, and other active transportation options. The estimated cost of the project is about $4.15 billion. Manitoba's new premier has been officially sworn in. Wab Kinew led the NDP's victory earlier this month. Marie Sinclair was on hand for the ceremony and says that Manitobans electing a First Nations premier was a true act of reconciliation.
I want you to think of the fact that we are now entering a new phase. And that phase ultimately is going to lead to a relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in which we are able to show true respect to all of those who are here and all of those who come here.
According to a study recently published in Conservation Science and Practice, British Columbia's Elk Valley has the highest mortality rate for young grizzly bears in North America. Researchers tracked 76 bears between 2016 and 2022, mostly via radio collars. 12 of the 14 bears died after having been hit by a vehicle or train or by a conflict with humans. One of the bears died by natural causes, and one other's death was unknown but suspected to be caused by a human. Clayton Lamb, a wildlife scientist with Biodiversity Pathways and the University of British Columbia, says that despite the high number of collisions, grizzly bear populations can replenish themselves if they enter any surrounding landscapes that have less people. Despite that, it appears other experts feel that more needs to be done on the matter. Moving on to Israel, the U.S. has vetoed a United Nations resolution to condemn all violence against civilians in the Israel-Hamas war and to urge humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza. American Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the UN should wait for the result of diplomatic efforts in Gaza before voting on a resolution.
We believe we need to let that diplomacy play out, especially when Secretary General Guterres, President Biden, Secretary Blinken, and regional actors are engaged in intensive dialogue on the very issues we are deliberating on today.
The vote in the 15-member Security Council was 12 votes in favor and the U.S. against, with Russia and Britain abstaining. Your weather update, it's bad. 13 degrees with showers going late into the evening and into the next morning. Road conditions are slippery, so exercise caution out there. Those were your news updates for this hour. I'm Anthony Atanasov with 1680 The Crow. My co-host Brooke Jensen will be back at 1:30 with more updates. Stay safe out there.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Microlink, connecting you with your BCIT community. Hello everybody, my name is Tatiana Yakovleva and welcome to the first episode of Microlink for the fall term. I'm excited to be back. This episode has a lot in store for us, But first, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which BCIT's main campuses are located is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the shared traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. To start us off, I sat down with Celine Loriot, the president of the Student Association, to talk about the new executive board, what their visions are, and what's next for us. Celine, why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Celine. I am the president of the BCIT SA and a nursing student at BCIT.
That's awesome. And with so many BCIT students, it's never just being a student. Everyone does so much, right?
Of course. I feel like there's a bit of something for everyone at BCIT.
Right. So let's start with a few students. Can you tell us something about the 2023-2024 executive team? What's the vibe? What's the energy? What are you guys bringing to the table?
So I feel so fortunate to be working with such an enthusiastic team. So please don't mind if I rave about some of them. Charlene, the chair of health sciences, is a fellow classmate and nursing student like me. She's an avid runner and hiker. Also, she is pursuing her neonatal specialty. Shelby, the VP Equity and Sustainability, is an accounting student and has an appreciation for Shrek. Feel like a lot of us do.
That's my girl.
And her cat named Kevin. Simran, the chair of Business and Media, is an international student who has a bachelor's in French from India. Also, she keeps students safe as a security guard at BCIT. Abdul is studying architecture and building technology. He likes sports and cars, but only the fast ones. Justin is the chair of computing and academic studies. He is in the computer systems technology program and the voice of Raisin Crane in the Strawberry Shortcake series and volunteers at RAPS Cat Sanctuary in Richmond once a week. Daniel, the chair of specialized transport, is studying aircraft maintenance engineering. He is also serving Canada in the armed forces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very dedicated. Lastly, Jimmy, the VP External, is an electrical engineer student and a Lego connoisseur. I could go on about Mia, Rishank, Josh, and Matthew. And if I did, we'd probably be here for a couple hours.
That's fair. We did hear from Mia and Vershank and a lot of the returning execs already. If you haven't checked out the previous interviews, I strongly recommend to doing so. Well, Celine, enough about your team. I want to hear about you. What do you bring to the executive team as the president?
As I mentioned, I am a nursing student in my final year, so I've really honed how to stay calm under pressure and how to think critically. Before this role, I served as the BCIT SA Chair of Health Sciences, and based on that, I know how it feels to be new at the SA. Therefore, I really try my best to set up my executives for success by regularly checking in, acting as a soundboard for new ideas, and encouraging self-care in work-life balance. I firmly believe that the president should share power and leadership is best when it's collaborative. My priority is that students should feel seen, heard, and valued. It's not about being president that motivates me, it is serving the SA mandate of enhancing student life.
Can you briefly touch on what enhancing student life means to you?
So, enhancing student life is really listening to the students and delivering on what their current needs are. One of these mission projects that I'm working on is supporting students' mental health and awareness at BCIT. I plan on continuing with my Campus Convos events, which are mental health workshops with guest speakers shared over a meal at small round tables. This was actually a shared initiative with Josh Liu, the VP Student Experience that we started last year. So I'm definitely excited to continue with this initiative. Also, I want to boost student resilience and foster that sense of community by hosting more social events. I want to make BCIT more fun.
I personally root for paint night, so maybe you can make it happen one day.
For sure.
Okay, we got one vote in. Hopefully it'll get through. As a nursing student, what is the value of mental health? I'm sure you know that more than I do. So can you please briefly touch on that and the magnitude that it carries?
So I started my nursing studies in the peak of COVID.
Right.
And that was the strangest time of my life, right? Because instead of practicing in the community, we were practicing with simulation mannequins, right? So I think for me, mental health is so important because the pandemic made us more disconnected, right? And I think being a nursing student puts me in a unique position to really be in tune with what's going on around me in my environment and have a sense of what's going on for people and how I can really use my compassion to help others. Yeah, I think that's why mental health awareness, especially for students at BCIT, is so important to me.
Is that the main reason you got into nursing?
Yes, because I have had the privilege of growing up with lots of inspirational nurses. And I think just seeing the impact they had on their communities and, sure, no one is ever going to remember their names all the time, but people remember how they made them feel. And I think that is really what inspired me to get into nursing, because I want to have that kind of impact on someone. Make them know that I didn't give up, that, no matter what, I'm there for them.
I love the quote that it's more about how nurses make people feel, because in medical or mental health aspects, it's so vulnerable.
Yes.
And having a right attitude just makes the difference so much. But we'll stray away from that topic and we'll come back to the initiatives. Are there any other initiatives that your colleagues have been fostering that you're very excited about?
So I'm excited to work with Shelby Woida, the VP of Equity and Sustainability, to find ways to indigenize the organization. And we are thinking of doing this through consulting with elders on best practices so we can move more in the direction of promoting reconciliation that is meaningful to us. We hope to achieve this through education and events in collaboration with community partners at BCIT. Mia Boo, the VP of Finance and Administration, plans on continuing her free tax clinic for students. It was very popular and successful last year. I think this is an excellent initiative, as tax time can be stressful for students, and it allows student volunteers to practice their tax skills. Vershank Prabhu, the chair of Energy, is leading the SETREP committee, which is focused on improving the SETREP program for everyone. And actually, many executives are interested in finding ways to just make it that better experience. And lastly, Justin Saint, the chair of Computing and Academic Studies, plans to continue hosting the annual QDS Hackathon, where teams work together to create solutions to an industry problem. And the winners get prizes and chances to connect with the judges who are potential employers.
Ooh,
Lots of fun stuff happening.
So you mentioned the tax clinic, correct? And I personally can vouch that I volunteered for it last year. Honestly, an amazing experience for those who go there and volunteer there as well. But speaking of taxes and the economy, as you know, that the current economy is not very favorable with the interest rates rising, and it has affected everyone. Currently, there was a referendum last year regarding finances. So how does BCIT Student Association operate in a deficit? And how do you choose your priorities when it comes to limited funds? Because everything has a limited fund. We cannot...
Of course.
Unfortunately, we would love to have unlimited funds, but that's not realistic. So how do you set your priorities in this situation?
It's true that we are in a deficit, and we have chosen not to cut back services to students. Hosting successful events requires thoughtful planning and buy-in from the team. Also, we have options to move funds around to support initiatives. For example, September is jam-packed with student-facing events that we started planning many months in advance. The execs will be present at the events, so please stop by and hang out with us. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a sneak peek of one of those events?
Oh, one of them, we plan on having a pub party where we'll have a DJ and we'll have meal specials. And yeah, I'm really excited just thinking about it.
And besides the social events and gatherings, what do you think that the students at BCIT need the most in this current time?
It isn't easy being a student. Affordability is huge, and we know students need to feel supported during their academic journey, and there are numerous negative impacts from the rising cost of parking, housing, food, education, and textbooks. The list goes on. I see it every day with my classmates, many of whom have to work longer hours or take additional jobs just to make ends meet.
Right.
Additionally, mental health challenges continue to be prevalent, and no student should have to face this alone without adequate support. The SA is here to help, and will keep pushing BCIT and the government to step up even more.
And what does stepping up mean for you in this case?
So stepping up means really addressing these needs and being there for students. We opened a food pantry and we secured student support as a BCIT SA community for increased investments in this program over the coming year. Most importantly, we are constantly advocating to BCIT and the government around parking affordability, student aid, better regulation of international tuition, and increased mental health support.
And as far as I understand, that's the responsibility of VP External to lobby for those things.
Correct.
I know that's not your role, but can you briefly give us a sentence or two to summarize what your colleague does?
So Jimmy, the VP External, he goes on lobby trips with the government relations strategist Stewart. And in those trips, they are purposeful trips where they advocate for students in meetings with government officials.
I'm sure it's very tiring to do so, but I appreciate Jimmy doing that on our behalf. We'll get to the nitty-gritty part. I've heard some rumors that some students feel there is a disconnect between the student association and the students themselves. Do you think that is the case?
We can always do better. And this is top of mind during my presidency. Students connect with us for appointments with advocacy specialists for support with wellness and navigating BCIT educational policies. Also, students enjoy connecting with career specialists as they help give them that extra boost that they need in their careers and connect them with employers at career fairs. We form a council with student representatives across all schools and campuses. Therefore, I strive to find ways to motivate students to join, especially where students can directly have their say and shape the direction of the SA. BCIT attends student consultations with us throughout the year, so this is a great way to let them know what challenges and suggestions you have.
And for want students to get involved and to really voice their opinions, how can they do that? I believe, as far as I know, anyone can sit on the council meetings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Everyone is welcome. We have food. And yeah, it's one of the best ways to stay in the know in what's happening in the student community.
SA itself, there was a 5-year plan called Raising the Bar. What does that mean to you specifically, Celine?
Raising the bar means putting in the work to match words to action. For instance, we want to engage with more students by having more student-facing events throughout the year. Doing so will increase our presence at BCIT and student engagement at times such as the AGM and elections. Our new strategic plan will require everyone to work together in January to determine how we move forward into the future to enhance student life.
And what do you hope will be accomplished by 2024 with this plan?
I hope that students will be able to see our presence and feel that we are here to support them.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the BCIT students listening today?
At the BCIT SA, you choose how you want to be involved. You can join one of our 40-plus clubs, attend Kickstart and Welcome Back events, sign up as a set rep or counselor, or go to our website to learn about all the great services we offer. Please reach out to us if you have questions or concerns and send us your ideas. We are an inclusive and welcoming organization, pet-friendly too.
That is true. I've seen so many cute doggies running around. But I personally lobby for more cats. I'm a cat person. We need more cats.
Yes.
unfortunately, you can't tell them where to go. So that's probably the only hiccup. But to end things off on a maybe slightly lighter note, do you have any advice for upcoming students? A lot of people are starting in September. What do you think a new student at BCIT should know?
At BCIT, there are so many people that would like to help you and so many resources here. And no one is ever going to turn you away if you say you're not okay. And yeah, we are a supportive community and we really want to see our students thrive.
I think it takes effort to reach out, which is why there might be a sort of barrier when it comes to it. But I can say from personal experience, it is worth it. If there is anything, an issue going on, and even if it's not really related to student life, you can always find resources. I personally encourage every listener to really reach out to people. We're only an email away, really, so.
Yeah.
And you can book appointments with Celine and other executives as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So each executive holds their office hours, and one way to find out when we're available is to go on our website and click the link to book an appointment with us. Or even if you just see us in the hallway, talk to us. We're happy to chat.
So now you know how Celine sounds like. So if you hear her voice, you know who she is. That's what it's like, hi, Celine. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that the September will be off to a great start. It sounds like a lot of is cooking up, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I want to make BCIT fun again.
To continue discussing changes at the Student Association, I sat down with Roland Gagel, the Director of Finance and Interim Executive Director for the SA. He and I discussed what his two current roles entail, how they play into one another, what their differences are, and what they do to make the student life better. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Roland. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Roland Gagel, and I am the Director of Finance and the Interim Executive Director for the Student Association of BCIT.
So, Director of Finance is your main role, correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell me more about your main role?
I've been with the Student Association since 2003, so 20 years now, and my role as the Director of Finance is to oversee the finance and accounting and administration of the Student Association.
And in terms of being Interim Executive Director, how does that look like for you?
I get a lot more emails on a daily basis now. So in terms of the role of the executive director, it's overseeing the operations of all of the staff and acting as a liaison, as a liaison to the board and council. So assisting and supporting them and translating their objectives down to the staff and trying to achieve the goals that they want to have.
And in that position, do you integrate with all of the levels of the Student Association, or is it more of a relay between the board and the employees of the Student Association?
There's obviously a team of people. I don't talk to everybody individually. In totality, the Student Association has about 100 staff, so I don't talk to everyone, and many of the staff are involved with serving the students at our retail stores and things.
Right.
But so I mean, I don't manage all the staff directly. There's a team of directors that I directly liaison with or chat with and inform them or inform them of the board's wishes and just manage the operations from that point.
And how long have you been in this interim role?
Since June.
Okay. And combining this and your main role of Director of Finance, what does your day in your life look like?
It's answering a lot more emails than I used to be doing, and trying to fit in the Director of Finance duties, some of which I've downloaded a little bit to the controller of the Student Association. Everyone's pitching in as best they can to help me out. It's an awful lot, and I certainly don't mind doing it for the benefit of the Student Association. So I certainly can't do it by myself. All of the staff are helping me out as best they can.
And I did hear Little Bird say that you do bike to work.
Do bike to work most days.
Most days. That's a nice start to your routine. Is there anything else that you like in your daily routine to break up the busyness?
Well, I try to make sure I have lunch.
That's always good.
That's always good. Other than that, no, it's bike to work to sort of get some fresh air and get going, and then it's doing the work and trying to answer emails, try to reach out to staff, talk to staff directly. I try not to sit at my desk too much. I do like to chat with people because I find it's a more informative way to bring the team together and sort of move things forward. So yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like the students to know about you and the Student Association?
I've been with the Student Association for 20 years, as I said. I've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the Student Association since I started. It is a completely different organization since when I started in 2003, but the mission has always stayed the same. All of the staff are dedicated to tagline. It's not just a tagline, it's the mission of the Student Association, which is enhancing student life. I'm always striving to make the Student Association better, but always better in the sense of trying to make things better for students, because the students are the members of the Student Association.
And how does that betterment look like in the next 5 years for you?
Well, there's a number of projects on the table in the short term in improving the food pantry, food security program. We've recently hired a food security coordinator as per the referendum that was passed last spring by the students. So enhancing that program, part of the objectives of that program is to bring it to the other campuses where possible. How that is actually going to look is still to be determined, but we're working on that because we fully understand the need of food security exists at all campuses. We're still working on with BCIT to determine where additional space for the Student Association could be on campus. That is part of the mandate of the Student Association. And so that's still in the works. It's taking a little longer than we anticipated just because of the complexity of the negotiations with BCIT and the need to find the space and then to pay for it. We are collecting a new building fee to facilitate the building of a new space or acquiring a new space, however that may be, and there's just a lot. It's a complex thing, so we're still working on that. And then just in general, just trying to strive that all of our services are a little bit better every year, and make the delivery of services to students more efficient, more effective, and of more value to students.
And you talked about the consequences of the referendum. Is there any other ripple effect that students may not notice in their daily life?
With respect to the food security program, we brought that forward. It was brought forward by council to the students, and they voted in a positive manner to increase the fee as it relates specifically to the food security program, and now we're just rolling that out. the ripple effect there is just to be of benefit to students because the students found that to be of value. I can't really think of any other ripple effects. It's just all in the package or mandate to enhance student life.
And I talked to Celine about involving more student events. Is that something you're currently working on, or is it something that you don't oversee as much?
I am certainly working on it, not directly, but the council and the board has communicated that wish to me to have more actual student life on campus in terms of events, and I've communicated that to the other staff, and we are working on that. So, for instance, we did have the party at the pub on September 22nd, which was quite successful, and we've heard from students that they enjoyed that very much, and that seemed to go well. And we're in the process of planning another party for Halloween, and probably another kind of a party at the end of November. And we intend to continue planning more events, both bigger events and smaller events, to provide more life on campus.
What was some of the feedback that you received from the students during the Habitat Pub party?
Generally positive. They all seemed to have a good time. There was some pickup on the Uber rides that we provided to students for the night of the party. We intend to do that again. With respect to the Halloween party, it was generally well received, and everything went reasonably smoothly. There weren't really any major hiccups as far as I'm aware. So it was generally positive. We're just trying to, for the Halloween party, to expand it a little bit and make it an even bigger event. I'm not going to share any details because that's going to come out in the next week or two, the details as it relates to that. But we're just trying to make the next party bigger and better, more fun.
Will you dress up?
Will I dress up? I hadn't thought about that yet.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope those 2 interviews were very insightful for you folks, because they were for me, and I work for the Student Association. Oh, but speaking of, you can check out more Student Association content, events, and things that are happening in the area on the Instagram at BCITSA. Same with Link. Our Instagram is at LinkBCIT. Also, check out our TikTok, run by yours truly. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you in the next one.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.